Hey everybody, welcome to the second video for the project Build a Data Analysis Library from Scratch in Python. In this video we're going to be looking at some specific examples from the Pandas Cub library, which is the final product that you will produce at the end of this project. So I have a Jupyter notebook here that's open that I will use to show you some of these examples from Pandas Cub. So the first thing I'm going to do is just simply import Pandas Cub into my namespace. I'm going to alias it as PDC. Pandas is by convention aliased as PD. Now, one of the first things that I will show you is how Pandas Cub is able to read in data from an external file. So Pandas Cub has a function called readCSV. It's the same function that's available in the Pandas library, but it is far simpler. It only has one parameter available to it, and that is a string of the file location where the CSV is located. So we'll be able to read in only comma-separated value files and only very simple comma-separated value files. So there is an employee.csv file in the data folder in my current setup that it will read in as a data frame. So that's nice that it is read in this data, but as an analyst, it's important to actually have a visual representation of this. So we're going to learn how to format a display of the data frame inside of a Jupyter notebook. So if we put the data frame variable name, df, in one of the cells by itself, we will display the representation of it. So as you can see here, we have a nice display in our notebook that has the columns and the rows just like this. So that completes these two tasks up there. There is a head method that returns just the first 5 rows. I like to use this to shorten up the output and to not pollute the notebooks with lots of rows of data frame. Alright, let's move on. Our data frame will also be able to select subsets of data with the brackets operator. So the brackets operator is a universal way that Python has given to developers and to users to select subsets of data. So let's go ahead and look at the data frame again, at least the head. So there are many types of functionality that are available to the brackets operator with Pandas Cub. The simplest one is to select a single column of data with just the string name given to the brackets operator. So for instance, if I wanted to select the department column, I would just simply put the name of that column as a string inside the brackets, and I would get just that column. So head here is used again just to get the first 5 rows. I'm going to cover a few other examples of what Pandas Cub is able to do. So not only will it be able to select a single column, but it will be able to select multiple columns if you give it a list. So for instance, let's say I want to retrieve the department and salary of our data frame. Well, then I can just give a list of the column names inside the brackets operator, and I will get that. So that's how you would get multiple columns. Now, you can also select rows and columns simultaneously. So rows you can select with their integer location. So for instance, if we wanted to select rows 10 and 50 and 30, they don't have to be in any order, and we wanted to select the columns, let's just do the same columns, department and salary, we could give the brackets operator both rows and columns separated by a comma. So this will do simultaneous selection of rows and columns. And in this case, we return 3 rows and 2 columns. So those correspond to the 10th, 50th, and 30th rows and the department and salary columns. Now, the data frame will also be able to select with slices. So for instance, if we wanted to select rows 10 through 20 along with columns, we'll just keep the same columns, say department and salary, you could do this. You could also select with numerically like this, so from the second column to the end. Okay, so there are other combinations that are available to you, but I want to show one more, and that is Boolean selection, a very necessary, very necessary thing to do with in data. So Boolean selection selects data by the values and not by the column names or the row locations. So for instance, if I was interested in selecting only those employees that had a salary of greater than 100,000, we could first create a Boolean mask like this, and I could save this to some variable name. Let's call it filter for filter. I'll go ahead and output the first 5 rows. I can then go ahead and use this. I can pass this into the brackets, and it will select only the rows which are employees, only the employees that have a salary greater than 100,000. So Boolean selection will be possible. You can also select particular columns. So if I want to select just department and salary along with just those that are greater than 100,000, we could do that, and dot head to just get the first 5 rows. Okay, so that is subset selection with Pandas Cub. Let's scoot on down over here. So you will learn, the next section is using special methods defined in the Python data model. So I'm not going to show you the special methods here, but I will show you what they allow you to do. So the len function, the built-in len function, this is built into Python itself. We will cover how a special method may be used within your class so that your object, the data frame in this case, will be able to work with this len function. So this returns the number of rows for us. You can also do, we'll also learn how a special method is able to allow us to use this plus operator. And in this case, I'm going to just add $10,000 to everyone's salary, and the special method is required so that our object, our data frame, can understand how to work with this plus operator. So there are many other special methods that are available that will allow us to interact with Python's functions and operators, and we will discuss them, or we will encounter them several times during this project. Okay, moving along, the next thing that our data frame will be able to do is be able to aggregate the columns. So there'll be many aggregation methods that are implemented. An aggregation method, by definition, is something that summarizes a sequence of values by a single number. So for instance, typically you're aggregating numeric columns, and we only have one numeric column here, the salary column. If we wanted to find the mean salary, we can use the mean method, and this aggregates it and returns a single value. Now, some aggregation methods do work with strings, so department typically don't find the minimum of a string, but it is allowable. So the, string highest up in the alphabet is health and human services. So those are the aggregation methods, sum, min, median, max, and several more. All right, our data frame will also be able to do non-aggregation methods. So a non-aggregation method is something that just does not return a single value for each column. So let's just look at our data again. We will see that, let's just choose the unique method, for instance. This operates a little bit differently than Pandas. So what unique does, it returns a list of data frames. So for every column that you have, it'll find the unique values of that particular column. All right, so if I look at this, it's going to look a little strange. It has a list of data frames. So to actually look at the unique values, I'm going to have to get, DFS is a list, so I'm actually going to use the brackets to actually get one particular data frame. So the first one is just the department column. As you can see, these are the unique values of the department column. So if I want all the unique values of the race column, I could get the index 1 in there, If I want to see the unique values of the gender column, I can do that. There are going to be, there's salary, there's many unique values, so if I do this, I can just do dot head and see those are the unique values of salary. All right, so that takes care, those are some non-aggregating, that is one example of a non-aggregating method. And let's move on to the next piece of functionality, which is grouping. So it's very important that our data frame be able to group by at least one variable. Our data frame will be able to group by one or two columns exactly. Pandas is able to group by any number of columns. So we're going to, so what Pandas Cub offers is a pivot table to do the grouping. So let's go ahead and look at the head so we can see our columns again. So the pivot table method will allow us to group by one or two columns exactly. So if we wanted to find, say, the average salary by every combination of department and race, we could do that. There's the grouping columns come first. They go into the rows and columns parameter. We'll put department and race. And then values will be what we're aggregating. So we're going to aggregate the salary column. Then there's an ag func parameter, and this tells you how we're going to aggregate. So we're going to aggregate by getting the mean. So this returns a pivot table. So we have on the rows, we have the unique values of the department. The column names are now the unique values of race. So we have Asian, Black, Hispanic, Native American, and white. And then inside here, we have all the mean of those values. So that is how pivot table works. Here we group by two columns. You can group by a single column as well. So say you just wanted to group by department, well, then you can just get rid of the columns parameter, and this will find the mean of every department. Okay, so that's grouping. And the last piece of functionality, a major piece of functionality that Pandas Cub will have, is that it will have very specific functionality for strings. So let's again take a look at this. So strings are typically handled differently than numeric columns. So if we look at, say, there's an str method. So it's accessor, I should say. So str is just like with pandas. So let's say we wanted to use the count method. So we want to count, and this looks a little bit different than pandas. So you're going to put in the column name here. So if we wanted to count, say, the number of, I don't know, A's in every every value of the department column, we would do this. Okay. So this will return a one-column data frame with the number of A's for every single value in the department column. And there are many string methods that will be implemented here. These are all the same string methods that are available for regular Python strings. So if I just press tab here, you can see these are all the string methods that our data frame string columns will be able to use. And there are quite a few of them. Okay, so that wraps up the examples for Pandas Cub.